All right, good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, March 26, 2024. It's now 10 a.m. We're here for the regular session of the Hunt County Commissioners Court. This time I'll call the meeting to order and ask Commissioner Martin to lead us in prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to our flags. Please stand.
Shall we bow? Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of life. We thank you for allowing us to come here and take care of community business. May we do it in a righteous way. If you will, give us understanding, patience, wisdom as we make these decisions. We thank you for everything that you have given us. We thank you for this great country that we've been blessed with. In Christ's name we ask all these things. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
honor
The Texas flag, allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, everyone. We have Commissioner Hutchins, Commissioner Monroe, Martin, and Harrison present. I'm Judge Stovall presiding over the meeting today. Commissioners, you have the minutes from the March 12th, 2024 regular session. Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. This time we'll have public testimony. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes and should conduct themselves in a civil manner. The Commissioners Court cannot take actions on items not listed on the agenda in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Concerns will be addressed by county staff. They may be placed on a future agenda or addressed by some other course of response. Does anybody here wish to speak? Is anybody online? Being none, we'll close the public testimony. Under new business, consent calendar. Commissioners, you've got the consent calendar. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Action items B, approval of accounts payable.
I make a motion, we pay the bills.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Commissioners, under the approval of line item transfer, I was asked to give some clarity. Under the radio project, we had encumbered the L3 Harris contract, and then some other work outside of the L3 contract was paid for out of that money, so we had to shift the money away to out of the same account. It just got a different line item is all it is, and to clear up that we still have encumbered the money for the L3 project. Is that correct, Mary? That's correct, okay. Anybody got questions on that? Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Approval of budget amendments.
Make a motion to approve budget amendments.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Approval of payroll and personnel.
Make a motion, we approve payroll and personnel.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. I think I'm going to skip down to number 3, proclamation on Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month, April 24. Lori, you want to say anything before we read the proclamation? Or would you like to read the proclamation? It's whatever y'all want to do.
We'll read it.
Will you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We'll take some of the pressure off you.
Thank you. I have a hard time getting through this one.
It is a little tough. It is a little tough, but we appreciate you guys always supporting these efforts in our county to bring awareness to child abuse and
Yes, ma'am.
prevention of that. So with the proclamation, it says, whereas each day in Texas, 159 children were confirmed victims of child abuse in 2023, which is a confirmed victim of child abuse every 9 minutes. Whereas in 2023 in Texas, a total of 49,000 684 children were in the legal care of the state for their own protection. Whereas in Texas and throughout the nation, there are many individuals and agencies who are working to prevent child abuse, to raise awareness about child abuse, and to help the child victims.
Whereas in 2023, the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services became involved with hundreds of thousands of children and their families due to allegations and confirmed cases of child abuse or neglect. Whereas in 2023, the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services investigated 163,855 referrals of abuse and neglect of children. Whereas in 2023, Hunt County's Child Protective Investigations engaged in 1,956 cases involving Hunt County children in 2023. Whereas the number of Hunt County children who were placed into care and custody of the state was 118 children in 2023.
Whereas in 2023 in Texas, there were a total of 8,281 court-appointed special advocates, or CASA volunteers, who are assigned by the court to speak up for a child's best interest. Whereas last year, CASA volunteers involved in one of the 73 CASA programs in Texas advocated for 20,169 children in the foster care system, giving 1.8 million volunteer hours to serve these child victims. Whereas in Hunt County, CASA volunteers advocated for 118 children last year, serving 100% of the Hunt County children who were placed into the foster care system. Whereas in 2023, CASA for Hunt County volunteers gave 12,085 hours and traveled 46,010 miles in order to serve the children in which they are appointed, saving Hunt County taxpayers about $347,000 with volunteer services.
Whereas Children's Advocacy Center, also known as the CAC, is the front door for child abuse investigation process to provide a collaborative response to children impacted by abuse. Last year in Texas, 70 children advocacy centers across the state served more than 64,938 children each year, with 45% being the ages of 6 to 12 years old. Whereas in 2023, approximately every 15 hours, there was a confirmed case of child sexual abuse here in Hunt County. Whereas 98% of the child victims knew their alleged perpetrator was not a stranger. Whereas every child through the CAC has a chance for their voice to be heard and the healing process to begin in Hunt County. CAC staff and volunteers served 700 children last year.
Whereas child abuse and neglect is a serious problem affecting every segment of our community, and finding solutions requires input and action from everyone in our community. And whereas our children are our most valuable resources and will shape the future of Texas, and whereas child abuse can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects that can have lifetime consequences for the victims of the abuse. And whereas protective factors are conditions that reduce or eliminate risk and promote the social, emotional, and developmental well-being of children.
Whereas effective child abuse prevention activities succeed because of the meaningful connections and partnerships created between child welfare, education, health, community, and faith-based organizations, businesses, and law enforcement agencies. And whereas communities must make every effort to promote programs and activities that benefit children and their families. Whereas we acknowledge that we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promote social and emotional well-being of children and families in safe, stable, and nurturing environment. Whereas prevention remains the best defense for our children and families. Whereas the impact of abuse and neglect has long-term personal, economic, and social cost, therefore hurting Texas's future.
Whereas CASA for Hunt County Children's Advocacy Center, Hunt County's Child Protective Services, foster parents, teachers, counselors, attorneys, judges, and many others work to ensure that children in our community have the opportunity to grow up in a safe, loving, permanent homes. So therefore, we are asking the Hunt County Commissioners Court to grant that April 2024 as National Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month in Hunt County.
Thank you very much. Would everyone that is a volunteer or a member of one of these groups stand, please? All right, Commissioners, entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion second, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Y'all want a picture?
Please.
Okay.
Did they put wheels on all four corners?
Hope you have wide lens, Jessica.
Oh, well, it's got enough to balance itself. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to get.
Ready, 1, 2, 3. Gotta get one more.
Yeah, I don't want to go forward.
It'll go back.
Okay. I didn't figure y'all wanted to hear all this other nonsense. That was the important things. Okay, we'll go back to action item number 1. Presentation by Caddo Mills regarding proposed tax income reinvestment zone and potential county participation. Matt?
First of all, thank you all for allowing us to come speak on behalf of the city of Caddo Mills. Caddo Mills is, as y'all are aware, is getting bombarded by development. And with the legislators down in Austin allowing the developers to have what we call a mud cart in their pocket. And they can just come down and put in whatever they want. They don't come into the city. And it's really, it's been tough for us. And so we're battling a couple of them. And so what we're trying to do is create a model for Caddo Mills and hopefully for the rest of the county as the development spreads across from the west to the east through the county of a participation of a TERS program to the developers, meaning the TERS would help pay for the off-site infrastructure, which really affects the developers. And in return, they put in a PID/TERS, they come into the city limits, and it's a win for all of us. And it has to be a win for them, besides us also. And so today I have Mary Petty with P3. She's our consultant for the PID/TERS. I know you guys have a lot of information in front of you that I gave you, and so she's the guru, if you will, to explain all of it to you. So at this time, Mary.
Good morning, Commissioners, Judge. Mary Petty, P3 Works. We are TERS administrators for counties and cities across the state of Texas. We work exclusively for counties and cities. And so you have 4 different components. You have a handout that has the Caddo Mill logo on it. and that's what I'd like to walk you through. Those are the project parameters. The other packet of information you had is a draft preliminary plan. So Chapter 311 of the Texas Tax Code says that if the city's going to create a TERS, they have to create this preliminary plan before they take action. And so this would be the preliminary plan. Last meeting, Caddo Mills Council did call for the public hearing under the statute to be held in the April meeting. And so that draft plan was attached to that. And then you have two very large handouts. These are maps and a feasibility study, both required by Chapter 311. But they're in the plan, but they're so small that I made these larger copies for you so that you could easily see them. So I'd like to walk you through that presentation. It's going to give you the highlights of what's in that plan, and then I'm happy to answer any questions. The city's not taking this on lightly. They have engaged their financial advisors, their bond counsels, their city attorney, and us to make sure that they are not only adhering to the statutory requirements, but they're also putting the information out there from an education standpoint and in seeking participation from other entities like yourself. So page 2 shows you the TERS boundary. That's that really small map. And so that's why I gave you that larger map. It's a large size TERS, but the intent is to cover area that is in the city's ETJ. And so as Mr. Mahan said, as the developers come forward, they are allowed to develop in the ETJ. And as you know, the legislature has now given them the right to de-annex from a city's ETJ, in which they don't have to adhere to any subdivision regulations. They can just develop on their own, and the city doesn't really have any control from stopping that from occurring, other than to incentivize them to annex. And the purpose of the incentives would be for annexation, and we'll talk about how that impacts them. But that's that boundary. Generally, that boundary is comprised of mostly agricultural. The future land use plan anticipates residential, but then along those major highways and frontages, commercial and retail. There's an area of light industrial as well. But again, the incentive would be for the developers to spend their dollars building infrastructure that benefits the entire zone, and then the zone would be used to reimburse them over time. So page 2 talks about specifics on this TERS. We've talked about that large size is about 4,100 acres. Annexation would be required for them to receive any type of grant money from the TERS or any reimbursement from the TERS. I mentioned that how it would develop, primarily single family, but you also have commercial and retail components. The starting base is at 63 million. So if you remember, the tax code says that whatever the taxing entities get today, the year in which it's created, so the 2024 numbers that they receive today in revenues, going forward, they would continue to receive those revenues. So if you were getting, $10 today, if you agreed to participate in the TERS, you would still get your $10 today. It would just be future value that would be considered the incremental value in which we are seeking a participation from the county. We have an estimated development value primarily based on what we have developers. Currently, there's between 7 and 9 developers talking to Caddo Mills about developing large sections of land. And so that's another driver, is that there are so many of them. There needs to be a cohesive development plan. The project costs currently are estimated about $60 million. Remember that in a TERS that the city picks those projects that would be reimbursed or eligible to be reimbursed from the TERS. But anytime a taxing entity participates, they have the ability to also request certain projects be included during the life of that TERS. And so currently, we have identified on that larger map off-site roadways, water, sewer that benefits the region, that TERS zone. And those would be potentially eligible to be reimbursed from the TERS dollars in the event those properties annex and build portions or all of that. But you can always add additional projects as it moves forward. And were the county to participate, you would have 1 to 2 seats on that TERS board, and that TERS board is the board that governs that final plan and makes recommendations to the city council. The city of Caddo Mills has elected to identify those projects as primarily being public infrastructure projects. So roads, water, sewer, drainage, pump station, capacity components for water and sewer. There are opportunities to acquire land for other future public-type facilities, and so that is an option under 311. At this time, they just don't know what that might be, but that's an opportunity that is open for discussion in the future as well. Last couple of bullet points just say if the hospital or the county participated, then their projects would be determined by them when they entered into their participation agreement, or at a future date, they could always bring those projects forward and request for them to be added to the final plan. The timeline of the completion of the public improvements is ongoing throughout the term of the zone. Again, it's going to be driven by how quickly the development occurs and how fast properties are willing to annex. So the next several slides are just existing maps. Again, they're required by the statute to have what is actually the current existing land uses, even in the ETJ. And so that's on your slide number 4. And you see a component of that is primarily agricultural. That's that light green color. And then that peach color is your manufactured housing. And then if you turn to your next page on slide 5, you see the majority of that property that's light green will be turning into residential, but you'll have heavy components that are on those frontage roads that will be retail and be generating sales tax components. Slide 6 is a smaller version of that map I gave you. It's the location of those improvements. So you see that they're primarily water, roadway, keeping in mind that when property annexes into the city, those roadway components that are classified as county roads today, because they're in the city's ETJ and not in the city limits, those get annexed into the city. And those become the responsibility of the city for maintenance as well as for traffic enforcement. That property that's in the county's ETJ, in the city's ETJ, which is in the county, primarily gets its services from the county. Upon annexation, the city would be responsible for providing all those emergency services at their cost. And then lastly, you probably know that when property remains in the ETJ, the city can enforce certain subdivision standards relative to roads widths, water lines, sewer lines. But if the developer de-annexes from the ETJ, the city can't enforce any of that. If the developer's in the county or the ETJ, the city can also not enforce their codes. So their nuisance codes, the requirement for sex offenders to register, high weeds, loud noises, all of those things the city cannot enforce in their ETJ or in the county. So again, when annexation occurs, it allows the city a lot more ability to provide oversight and pull that burden off of the county. So on slide 7, it's a summary of the financing plan that is in that preliminary plan. Currently, this TERS is proposed to be a 30-year TERS. That is probably the shortest TERS that is being created. Many of these are running between 30 and 50 years because the long length of development windows that we are seeing. New real property tax revenues would be about that $300 million. Again, not sure the timing of that, but that's kind of an educated guess. Again, the statute requires you to put these educated guesses together so that there's an understanding of what we are anticipating. Currently, the city is not anticipating that they would actually issue any debt. However, that option is available. So if the city has revenues available and they can issue debt to do construction projects, they certainly can do that. And they can also acquire infrastructure from developers. And so that flexibility is there in the statute. It's just not currently something that the city is contemplating, but they will always be able to trigger that in the future if they desire. So you see in that gold box a listing. We're looking for participation from not just the city and the county, but also from the hospital district. I know you all participate in another TERS, and I know that you have a good understanding of those participation components, but I'm happy to answer any questions about that. The last page, slide 8, is really just the TERS stages. Those are generally the order that things occur in. The city would not promise a developer any reimbursements without an agreement. So you see things in here like the approval of a TERS agreement. That TERS agreement obligates the developer to perform and build before they're able to gain reimbursement. And again, the city is looking at all of these tools as being reimbursement mechanisms. So the developer constructs the infrastructure and then the city acquires it and then maintains it going forward. Items 1 and 2 will be completed on April 9th, assuming the city council takes action to create the TERS. And then after that point, that preliminary plan would be transferred to a final plan, which would, again, include a list of projects that the city and the TERS board could determine in any order to act upon. And then you have the other components requiring annexation and development agreements and TERS agreements, which will obligate the developer to, in order to receive reimbursement, they have to perform, whether it's annexation or construction. And so again, those kind of move around depending on the project and which pieces come first. So at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions. And Matt, I don't know if you want to add.
I've got one. When you said we get the same amount of money as we got before, how does the rollback work on that? Because they'll be changing zoning. Will it be the rollback, will it be value after rollback or before rollback?
That's a great question. The county can determine in your participation agreement that your rollback taxes are included or are not. So you could say, we're going to exempt our rollback taxes, so we, the county, would receive 100% of that, and you could do that. You wouldn't have to say it all goes into the TERS.
Okay. And then going forward with our money, would we get it based on the new value after they take it out of the exemption, or we continue to get the exemption money
You would continue to get what you get today.
today? So we
Right.
get the exemption money, not the rollback money?
That's my understanding.
Okay. Rollback value, excuse me.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
In reference to this location, as far as the proposed TIRZ, are there any mud, in reference to muds in that area that y'all know of?
I am not aware of any currently in that area. Okay, Matt says no. But I will tell you, one of the tools that developers want to use, because we're not anticipating using the TERS to finance all their infrastructure, only that infrastructure that is generally off-site and benefits the whole zone. But they do have a tool called an MMD that they could use and finance their internal infrastructure, but again, in return for them annexing and entering into a TERS agreement, the city can contractually obligate those limited powers in there so that the only thing that MMD does is a reimbursement vehicle to the developer for a certain amount of funding. They have to bring that finance plan to the city. And then after that, when it's paid off, it goes away. It's not like a MUD where it operates the infrastructure or it owns any infrastructure. It's just a financing tool.
In reference to also annexation, if they desire to be annexed into it, you are aware that all roadways, as far as it would be the city's aspect, even a county road, that they would take all the right-of-way of those roads. Am I correct?
Yes, sir, you are correct, and that is one of the items the city is very aware of and is requiring developers to dedicate their right-of-way to the future size as well. And then they take all the way to the other side of that right-of-way, so it doesn't go in the middle. They don't annex to the middle of the
It would be the whole
road.
right-of-way.
That's right, that's right.
Commissioners, I suggest we consider this very seriously. As y'all may remember, 2 years ago, I think it was, Kaufman County judge called and asked if we would consider reopening our juvenile jail. And we talked about it, and we told them we sure would if they'd operate it and pay for everything. And the reason they brought it was because around Forney, they're being overrun by MUDs. And at that time, they had 26 juveniles charged with felonies and could not find a place to house them. And it hasn't got better. The county judge from Kaufman was in my office last Thursday, I believe it was. He said they're currently spending $800,000 a year on juvenile detention. Staggering. With the problems they're having. And it is kind of the MUDs, if we don't have the law enforcement mechanisms of the city, and as well as we'd have, the county sheriff would have some authority in them, but it's not good. And what they're trying to do and what they are doing over around Forney and in some other areas, they're building them 30 or 35-foot lots and building them real tall, stacked up right beside each other. And, I've told one of them that we would fight them as far as we could, because it's a health and safety issue. We cannot, with volunteer firefighters, go out there and get there in time to save a whole neighborhood. We could lose a neighborhood in a fire if it was a real windy day. And it could cost lives and a lot of property damages. So if this prevents Mudge from coming in, it's something we gotta be serious about. Come to Mike, please, you gotta be on the record.
It also allows us to ask the developers to go above and beyond with their development. So we have nicer developments.
What are you talking about beyond development? Are you talking about fire departments or what?
Well, just different mechanisms like that, but yeah, we.
Parks, and,
Yeah.
new parks,
Trails.
recreation centers.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. To where Mud, you're not going to get any of that. And so we don't want to be, and I'm not knocking Forney or Princeton, we don't want to be that in Caddo Mills. We want to set the standard for the county. This will benefit, this model that we're trying to put together will benefit the Lone Oaks, the Celeste, because they're going down 30, they'll go north and south on 69, and so it's going to, it will benefit the whole county, you know, as a whole. So anyway, it's just not money to give the developer, it benefits all of us. So, and that's really the key here today.
And they don't just have them in the pockets of the legislature, they own the legislation.
They do.
They own it. They get everything, and whatever they want, they get it.
And, you know, it's hard for the cities. They think the municipalities are picking on the developers, and it's not true. It's completely opposite. So we're just trying to start something in our county that's going to be beneficial to everybody.
It started out as a really nice tool 30 or 40 years ago, and they've just expanded and expanded. Every time they go back to the legislature, they get more and more authority on it. It was originally out of Houston, out of Harris County, when they ran to try to, it was growing, they needed to extend utilities out. They were only for utilities, just to take trunk lines and major improvements, not to build a subdivision with, but it's continued to grow till they pay for everything now, and it becomes just another tax, which is usually larger than the city tax.
And we're trying to come up with a model for, as far as a development agreement that's standard for all developers. So not each, we have to reinvent the wheel on every developer. We're setting a standard, this is what you get. And so it seems, dealing with the two that we're dealing with right now, it seems like a very fair model. So that's what we're trying to accomplish.
In reference to the TIRC that we have with Greenville, what was the limit on that? Do you know, Daniel? I can't remember. I actually can't remember. Huh?
The limit on what?
How many years do we have that contract with TIR, with the tires, with Greenville?
With the city,
With Greenville?
Yeah, with the city.
2035, I believe. I'm not 100% sure about the date that ends. It might be closer to 2040. I mean, I can check on that, but I don't remember the date right now. It hasn't been extended since it first went into place.
That's correct.
well, Matt, I appreciate Caddo Mills for doing what they're trying to do, and I hope we're going to be able to help in that endeavor, because I think it's a good move on y'all's part to try to make y'all have a better community, because what's good for Caddo is good for Hunt County too. So it's an important issue to really take serious.
Judge, I would second that, and I appreciate this packet. We'll certainly take it and consider it very thoroughly. And for the benefit of the public, we've said before at this court and in one-on-one conversations that the counties do not have the number of tools available to them given but from the state legislature. So we're limited on things like animal control. And in development, I mean, we have, even just now before this meeting, I was talking with our head of county development about a development that somebody wants to build, and they have a right to do so, but it's in the middle of a long county road, with a lot of rock on it. And the county is just limited in what we can require of them. So moving forward, as we continue to experience this growth, we have to explore options to make sure that the services that our constituents and our residents need are being delivered to them in a way that's fair, the way that puts the burden as much as possible on those who are benefiting from that development rather than those who are just, living their life 30 years in a rural area. So we'll certainly take this and consider it carefully, and I appreciate your work on it.
I'd like to say one more thing. Basically, it's worked for Greenville. It has worked. There's no doubt we wouldn't have the infrastructure and all that we have all the way to my near 1570. So it's a good thing if we...
All right, Daniel, we could put it on the next agenda to move forward. What's the next step for us?
Well, the next step, I believe.
You need to come to the mic, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that?
So there's a couple of things. In order for the county to participate, there would be an interlocal agreement called a participation agreement that the county would enter into with the city. And so there's a couple of things. We don't have the final plan completed yet, because that action to create will happen on April 9th, and then we'll adopt that final plan shortly thereafter in May. And then if it's the desire of the court, you could authorize the judge and/or attorney to negotiate that participation agreement and then enter into it, and then that would complete that component. And then that participation agreement would also appoint how many seats you'd have on the TERS board and who they are, usually by place, so.
I do have one question. Sorry, I need to look it up. For those of us who don't deal with these on a daily basis, the participation rate, you have the city at 30%, county at 70%, and hospital at 50%. Could you explain the reasoning for that?
Sure, happy to. So the city's tax rate is composed, much like yours, of part an INS rate and part an O&M rate. And the city has worked really hard. Their tax rate was very high. But unlike most cities and taxing entities, their INS rate is greater than their O&M rate. And so when they're looking at participating, they have an INS commitment component that they're having to preserve. And so that 30% is that available component so that that INS is preserved. I believe it's the policy trajectory of the city, like many, to continue to try to bring that down. But knowing the amount of development that's on the horizon, that INS rate is probably not going to come down anytime soon. So that's why that 30% is there, is to preserve that INS component.
Thank you. That answers my
How
question.
does that hurt us going forward, since our debt's real low, but we're going to probably encounter, we got to build a jail at some time, it's going to be a big debt. Going forward, how does that affect us? Or is it in stone at this point in time, or?
No, that's a great question. So if you participate at 70%, you're participating at 70% of the new increment. So if your INS rate adjusts or changes, and let's just say you become a 50-50, where half of it's the INS rate and half of it is the O&M rate, then 20% of that INS rate would flow into the TERS. But that's also where there's opportunities where the county could say, we need these projects added to the TERS because we need these projects that are in this zone, in this area, and in this vicinity. And so the county's increment could be used for those projects in addition to the other increment that's available.
Y'all want a jail in Caddo Mills?
Here's the thing about that, now that cannot be extended beyond that, am I correct?
What part of that?
The TERS itself?
It cannot extend any further than the proposed improvement.
The boundaries as in your increment would only be within the boundaries of that proposed map that I gave you. So
That's correct.
Yes, sir. Any ancillary value that would be happening on the periphery of that value, of that boundary, 100% of it would go to the county.
But the boundary could be expanded at a later date.
But if the city opts to expand the boundary, and you're correct, the city could opt to expand the boundary, your participation agreement is tied to this boundary if you so choose to participate. And the city would have to come back and ask for a new participation agreement if they expanded the boundary.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank y'all. All right, action item 2, the quarterly report of the Boys and Girls Club of Northeast Texas. We finally get to you.
She's sure smiling, isn't she, Judge?
How are y'all this morning?
We're great.
I love it. I love it. Well, good morning. It is great honor and gratitude to always stand here before you guys and to just share inspiring stories or things that are happening within our clubs. My name is Brenda Chavez, and I am the club director for Lone Oak. Our club director for Greenville was not able to make it, but I am here to present both of us. I want to extend my heartfelt appreciation for the opportunity to address you and share the incredible strides that we've made at our club sites. First and foremost, I want to express my sincere gratitude for your unwavering support and your belief in our mission and your commitment to the well-being of our community, as well as our families, as we push boundaries and strive for excellence in everything that we do. Recently, within our clubs, we have embarked on a journey to ensure the safety of our kiddos as well within our clubs. We had Boys and Girls Club of America come into each of our sites and do a safety and physical kind of reassurance within our clubs. And I am here to say that we actually did amazing in that. Through the ongoing trainings and the genuine passion for creating a nurturing environment, our staff has fostered a culture where children feel not only safe but also empowered to open up to mentors and staff. This sense of security lays the foundation for the meaningful in mentorship, life-changing prevention programs, and ultimately a future filled with hope and promise for each and every child that we serve. Safety, as we have come to understand, is not just a prerequisite. It is the key that unlocks doors to endless opportunities. It paves the way for mentorship that guides young minds, prevention programs that equip them with essential life skills, and ultimately a brighter future for our entire community. I want to take the moment to express my deepest gratitude once again to each and one of you for your steadfast support. It is because of your belief in our mission and your unwavering commitment to the well-being of our community's youth that we are able to stand here today and celebrate these achievements. As we look ahead, let us continue to come together and unite in our shared goal of serving and empowering the youth of Hunt County. Together, we can create a future where child feels safe, supported, and inspired to reach their full potential. Thank you once again for this opportunity, and thank you for your continued support as we strive to make a positive difference in the lives of those we serve. Together, we can truly make a difference one child at a time. I'm happy to address any questions if y'all have any.
Commissioners?
We appreciate you.
Yep.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Y'all have a wonderful day.
You too. Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Action item number 4, presentation by Women in Need and requesting county's American Rescue Plan funding to help provide crucial support to families impacted by domestic violence in Hunt County. Krista?
Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. How are you?
Great.
I had presented a proposition to the county to help us with some additional COVID funding. In the proposition, I wanted to express that during COVID, that pandemic had really affected us and the services that we were able to provide to the clients. It also put people in a situation where they didn't have the ability to get away from their abuser. It kept people home. It kept them where they couldn't reach out for services. Within our organization, we had to get creative with how we can provide services to them, whether that's via Zoom or support groups, resources, even court went online. That being said, we also had to close our resale shops for a period of time. That is a huge funding opportunity for us that support our operations. And our stores were closed for about 6 weeks in Greenville and Quinlan and for about 3 months in Commerce. The revenue that we lost during that close was close to $100,000 for our operational expenses, which really impacted our bottom dollar and being able to provide support and sustainability for us that we're trying to help still recoup those costs. I was going to also mention to you, last year we had served over 586 individual clients that were non-residents. 72 of those were residents, and we had over 60 children in our shelter this last year. So this is an ongoing need for our organization, but we do love what we do. We're here and we're glad to partner with the community and stand alongside our clients as they have needs. Even though I believe most of y'all know we're women in need, but we do serve men as well. About 1 in 10 of our clients is a male. We don't house them in our shelter, but we do find additional resources for them. We do now have 7 full-time advocates that work with us between Hunt and Rockwall counties. So the need is continuing to grow. We also provide teen dating violence program within the schools, in our middle and high school, which we're happy to provide for a prevention component so that we aren't seeing that cycle continue. Our goal is safety for our clients at all times, but also tools and being able to empower them to make that decision to break that cycle for themselves. So that was my proposal for y'all today.
Thank you.
For
Commissioners,
considering
got any questions? I'd like to say, I mean, what we've, presentation earlier by the child abuse and CASA, I mean, it's just, it continues with the family. It's just another branch of the same thing, basically. All deal, same issues, just more adult-related than children. And I know that it's gotten a whole lot worse. And I think the court, I would suggest the court that we approve this request for, what was it, $75,000?
Yes, sir.
For $75,000 out of the ARPA funds that are part of the restricted funds, the $9.3 million. And I'll make that as a motion that we approve this.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Got a question, Mark?
Yes, I appreciate you coming, and I appreciate your work. The sum for $75,000, was that for, just to make up for lost revenue, or is there a specific project you're trying to utilize it for?
No, primarily for lost revenue. That was the main key component in it. During the pandemic, we had to increase our operational expenses in order us to go virtual with our clients, so there was that part. We also had to train our staff on technology to do that. Not that they didn't know, but it was going deeper on being able to be secure with our confidentiality, our technical support. We brought on an IT department to be able to keep our clients' confidentiality at a high level. So that was part of our expense as well.
And Daniel, are we able to take action on today since it's listed as a presentation on the agenda?
I don't know if that language is gonna be enough for that, but we can, put that back on the agenda, 2 weeks from now. Or I can look more deeply at the, Open Meetings Act, handbook and see whether or not that's enough appropriate notice to count.
My recommendation would be that we take a little bit more time to consider it. Part of what we need to consider is that all of the ARPA funds, if my understanding is correct, are supposed to be designated by the end of this calendar year. So I expect in the budget process, which we're entering into, that we will need to designate all of them. And so I think one of the things we need to look at as a court is the whole picture of how we want to designate them. And who knows, I mean, 75,000 doesn't sound like a lot, so maybe we can do more even, but I think we need some more time to consider that.
Sounds good.
All right. How do we handle it? We got a motion and a second already, so.
Well, I mean, either we need to take that motion and second off the table, and move this to old business, or I can look at that, in executive session, or directly to see whether that's enough language.
So why don't we move it until after executive session and let you look at that? Okay? Thank you. Action number 5, a presentation by Hunt Regional and requesting county's American Rescue funding for Hunt County Mental Health and Free Clinic. Lee?
Morning, Judge. Good morning, Court. Here today to ask for some help from you, the American Rescue Act funds that we just got through discussing. All of we know the hospital is growing along with the county and our need for physicians in the community and healthcare resources. And about a year ago, one of our long tenured physicians with the district, Seem Utman, approached me with the idea of starting a residency program. And he doesn't let much grass grow. We've got that moving pretty quickly, and we have submitted for approval of that residency program, waiting on the key that turns it all on April 5th, and we'll start recruiting the first class of 8 residents of 3 classes that will roll through that program. So in 3 years from now, we'll have 24 internal medicine residents in the hospital. And honestly, this is probably the first step in probably a strategy for us to provide health care resources for the community. We'll pretty quickly be looking into an OB residency program and an ER residency program. And if we can get some behavioral health partners on the table with us, we'll probably be looking at a behavioral health residency program. The program will be supervised by our internal medicines at the hospital who have been in the community for 20-plus years, and also have all of our specialists participating in those education of those students. And as we got to talking about this and thinking about it, you know, these residents will be not only having inpatient care, but they will have an outpatient program where they will be basically the primary care providers for these patients in our community. And at the same time, we were thinking about, you know, looking at a free clinic. And these students need a lot of visits in their education, and community service and free clinic visit type fits right into the curriculum of what they are supposed to be doing in their education. So it only made sense to approach rolling the free clinic idea that we've talked about for the community for a while into this program. So not only will it be a free clinic that will run with parallel clinic hours with this outpatient clinic that is going to be in the annex building behind the hospital, but those patients will have a primary care provider and followed with our supervising physicians. They end up coming into the ER and admitted to the hospital. They have a ready-made care provider that they are already seeing in that free clinic situation. You know, this is for those uninsured and underinsured folks in our community. You know, this clinic at its maturity will be able to see about 1,500 visits at a minimum per month, so we're excited about that. And in addition to doing this, we also looked at, you know, these guys will be able to serve to coordinate the behavioral health care with those in that type of need. So, you know, we're moving our behavioral health clinic into the same building as this free clinic and as our residency clinic. So all those things are going to be right there together. And I don't know that we can do after-hour services year 1 with just 8 residents. By the time we get to year 2, we'll be definitely adding after-hours clinic coverage to that location. So, you know, they will be providing all the typical mental health services also and part of what they do, the smoking cessations and substance abuse counseling and those kind of things. So what we have asked for is our wonderful federal government and their financial wisdom. You know, these programs start up with a 2-year look-back period before you get any of your money reimbursed. So we've got basically a 2-year window of eating cost on this program before it starts being self-perpetuating in reimbursement on Medicare claims through education and those things. So for the first 2 years, operations of the residency program and a free clinic, we're looking about at a $1.2 million loss, plus we need to spend about $850,000 on kind of the startup costs for the program, including renovation of that annex building into a clinic again. It's basically been used as a business office for a number of years now. We're going to get about 16 exam rooms in there, plus space to move our behavioral health clinic into it. Got to expand the parking lot and some things of that nature. And of course, you always have to work on infrastructure things like the air handlers and stuff. So we request $1,887,232 to help us with the cash flow of getting that program off the ground through its first 2 years. Hospital's got a lot of needs right now. This will help us fund this program until October of next year, when we start seeing some cash roll into the program to help offset these costs. It'll be operating in the red for about 2 years before it starts generating the cash to keep itself self-perpetuating. So very excited about this. It's a big halo effect for the hospital and the community, allow us to educate young students and figure out who the cream of the crop is and keep them here in our community.
Any questions?
I'm sorry, you said it was going to be located in the annex behind the hospital currently?
Yes, it's just directly behind the outpatient area of the hospital. It's the annex building. I don't know if you're familiar. It used to be a radiologist's office years and years ago. Then we used it for a business office for a number of years. So right now, it's set up to be like a business office without exam room and no equipment for this services and no bathrooms, no treatment areas and sinks and all those kind of things.
Sure.
So that's what a part of this funding request is for.
And could you elaborate more on the mental health services that would be offered?
I could, but, Brandy Isom, she's my VP of Quality and Coordinated Care and everything clinical that a stupid finance person who becomes a CEO doesn't know. So if you don't mind, I'll let Brandy talk about that just for a minute. So she's much better at answering those clinical things than I would be.
So the plan is to move our group therapy. We have an outpatient behavioral health clinic in Commerce. So our plan is to move that into this clinic for group therapy. We also have an outpatient single therapy clinic within the hospital, and that's led by a nurse practitioner who can prescribe medications and a licensed clinical social worker who can provide those therapy services. So the goal is many of these patients who will be seen within this clinic have either undiagnosed or untreated mental illness. So they'll be initially seen by the residents in this clinic, and that'll be a direct referral source to both of our outpatient behavioral health clinics so that they can get the care they need. We also have a medication program that once they're seen in these clinics and established, we can provide their medications on an ongoing month-to-month basis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I think, if I remember some prior conversations, one of the things that I'm of have an interest in is, helping the inmates that are leaving our facilities that leave with meds. Are they going to be able to come in there and get meds and treatment once they leave, out of our control? Because sheriff's trying to hire have you got anybody hired yet for our deputies for mental health? Got 2 working on it. So our plan with our deputies is when we release these people back into society, that we keep up with them. We have deputies checking on them. If they can't get their prescriptions refilled or need help, we need to help try to get them somewhere to continue to get help and keep them out of our jail and get them back into society.
That's certainly a part of this, and actually one step further than that is I think that we would want to work with the sheriff and his folks at the jail to have these residents see these patients in the jail settings, when we get to a fully staffed situation of that. We can coordinate that as part of this whole project.
Well, we need to talk about that. Aren't we using somebody with a Medidoc or whatever for mental health? Is that what we're doing currently?
Currently, we have a contract with Dr. Swinesgood. She does it by video and Zoom once a week.
And that's we're paying her to do that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. This would certainly be
Yeah, so we potentially could have somebody come down and do it in person.
You're starting to figure out a lot of reasons why I'm interested in this. It becomes a source of less expensive labor for medical.
Oh, yeah, I know. But they'll be able to they could come to our jail and see them face to face, which I think would be a tremendous benefit to the county. Commissioners, I'm excited about this, but I suggest that we contact our consultant on it. But going over to the end of the year, we need to encumber that money, but we're probably going to have some kind of written plan to how that would work to even present it. I wanted him to make the presentation today to see, kind of figure out if this is something we want to do. If it is, then we need to figure out how to structure it to make sure we're checking all the boxes on the money side of it. Because we can pay it out, the way I interpreted the ARPA rules, we can pay it out of the restricted money or our funds, either side of the equation. But I'm concerned that depending on how it's structured, we may be forced to one side or the other. And I'm not willing to make that decision without some help. It's only about 900 pages of those rules.
If I might say something in reference, not having to do with the program that you're representing, but another program which we do have a psychiatrist in reference to where most of the time it's done on Zoom and all that, and we pay her extra if she comes over here and decides to see one at a time, if I'm not mistaken. That's true. And I do appreciate the sheriff himself in reference to the counseling that they're trying to hire in reference. You say that we do have two, Terry, you say we have two of them already involved in that counseling, is that correct? You say we do have them?
Got two of them, two of the four budgeted positions.
There was four budgeted in the budget, that's correct. But I do appreciate you continue in reference to that, and I also appreciate the psychiatrist that we have over in Flying Mound that comes over here and the counseling that we have. I will not say anything in reference to, in actuality, in reference to presentation. At this time, I've been advised by my attorney in reference to conflict, but I think y'all are doing a good job.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Thank you, Lee. All right, action item number 6, approve AIA contract with Grace Hebert Curtis Architects LLC for architectural design services, Mary Puddin Hill building renovation. Daniel?
All right, I think it was probably about a week, maybe a week and a half ago that Bobby talked with these architects about the next step of the process. They'd been working on this project already. The next step of the process would be the scope that's in the contract that was negotiated, and that's the design services on what's going to happen out at the Mary Puddin Hill building. Bobby called and asked what the steps were for that, and told me that they use the AIA contracts. That's what a lot of architects use. That's a service that architects can use to basically choose different elements and create a contract that's a good legal enforceable contract. I'd had some previous issues. This county had previous issues with a particular part of an AIA contract, specifically when we did the jail 20-something years ago. There was an AIA contract section that limited liability for one of the main bad actors or people that the county said were bad actors, along with the other people that were sued. That limited the county in going after insurance proceeds that we otherwise would have been able to obtain. And so we asked them, for this group, for a copy of their AIA contract, looked through and had a couple of little contract sections that we discussed. But what they have submitted now and what's in front of you for your approval, if you want to go that direction, doesn't include those same problems with shifting of liability or limitations of liability that previous AIA contracts that I've worked with have had. Everything in this contract is legal for government to sign. Yes, sir.
Is it smiling towards us? Basically, is it a good thing for us the way you described what happened?
Yes. I mean, the way that this is set up, they're required to have insurance that will be a big enough value for all the different things that could happen that could cause public liability. Those are the minimum amounts are listed in those policies, and the way that those policies are set up and what it says about those policies does protect the government to the extent that there's some sort of negligent mistake made by the architect in the planning process.
That's what we ran into a problem earlier in life.
Yes. I've run into many problems with that exact same thing, but that's been taken care of in this contract.
Thank you.
And I'd add to it, that I sent an email to them and asked them to strike it, and they emailed back immediately and said, we'll take care of it and get you a new contract. So there was no discussion about it. They had no issues with doing it, so they're willing to stand behind it. So, Commissioners, we've gone through the first phases. We've got the programming done. We have kind of a general idea of what the outside of the building's going to look like and how part of the site will be looking. So the next step is to go into design. So I'd entertain a motion to approve this contract.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Action item number 7, approve Texas Parks and Wildlife grant agreement and related documents and segregate $50,000 for matching grant for Farmersville 4B Corporation.
That needs to go till after executive.
Okay, move it to executive session. Action 9, Flood Infrastructure Fund, FIF application process support. Commissioners, Freeze Nichols contacted me a week or two ago, and we had a phone call last week. The Texas Water Development Board has sent out requests for grant monies for projects that they have been identified to maybe be constructed. And so the first phase of it, we have no money in it. We're not asking really for any money at this point. We're just being asked. They're scoring our projects that we submitted that we need to have done in the county. A lot of them scored poorly, but we had 2 or 3 that are scored fairly high. So they think there's a good chance we might get funding for some of those. So all this is to put in an application and get started with the process, and it'll probably be late this year before we'll know a result. But I highly recommend we keep moving forward with it and try to get those grant funds to help some of our flooding areas.
Your Honor, this has to do with, in reference to every commissioner went around.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Correct.
This happened probably about, 1.5 years ago, where we were having a study in reference.
Probably started about then.
Yes.
It was just, it's not totally even wrapped up yet. I mean, we're still trying to finalize it.
Yes, sir, that's what I'm saying. The way they got this information is we went out and showed them in reference to what our flood problems were.
Correct. We
Yes,
identified 7, I think,
Yes, sir.
areas of concern in different precincts, and like I said, some of them didn't score very good, but some of them did. So we can move forward and continue to try to get some grant money. Entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Action number 9, donating a 36-inch scrap metal pipe to Quinlan FFA, Bowles FFA, and Kettle Mills FFA. David?
Make a motion to approve this. What this is a piece of pipe that we dug out, was an old culvert. It's in several pieces. We were gonna scrap it. I contacted these school districts. They said they could use it to do a project. So I'd like to make a motion to donate it to the schools.
Second?
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Action item number 10, updating the fee schedule for the County Development Department. Brian, you want to brief us?
So my fee schedule had been in place for a couple of years now. We made I'm requesting a few minor changes. Major one is going to be the variance request fee. Presently, it's $100 for a variance request, and I would like to up that to be a little bit closer to some of the surrounding counties and their various variance request fees. Anytime a variance is requested, there's quite a bit that goes into it on my end and on Amanda's end to go through and figure out what needs to be done, what they're asking, and everything else. So we're wanting to bring that up a little bit better to take care of our time that goes into it. So that's the other than that, just a couple of technical changes as far as who checks are made out to and things such as.
And filing fees changed a little bit.
The clerk's filing.
Clerk's file fees
changed.
changed a little.
Correct.
So we've adjusted to match that.
That's correct.
What was it prior on this 500 for division creating 3 or more? What was it, 100 at that time also?
It was $100 for any
any
variance
of them.
request,
Okay, thank you.
or it is presently.
And then, of course, the engineering changes.
The engineering, we had a separate fee for drainage plan review. I just don't get a whole lot of drainage plan reviews. Most of the time, if there's a drainage plan, there's going to be a set of civil plans with it. So we're just going to do away with the drainage plan review and roll it in under the civil plan review as.
So the old ones, it was the $100 variance request regardless of the number of lots?
It was $100 straight across the board, and a lot of times you're getting into something that's fairly simple. It's they're splitting a lot in half or dividing it into 2 lots. It's when you get into these where you've got a developer who's proposing a pretty good sized subdivision, and they've got several lots that are going to be under the county spec. That takes time. It takes phone calls and emails back and forth, meetings with them, and it's a whole process whenever they have something they're requesting a variance on, so.
Fannin and Grayson have gone to $1,000, haven't, and aren't they the two
Fannin
counties?
and Grayson County are both $1,000.
The two we know of right now that have gone up to that, which I think is too much. But I think the 100 is, we've had more in it than the 100, so I think this is something, it's a reasonable request.
Yeah. Three lots doesn't seem like a lot for that double price thing.
What you're getting into there is you're getting out of a situation, when you're just creating 2 lots, that's typically just one lot that may be a little shy in frontage or something, and they're splitting it in half. There are various kinds of situations where people are doing that. When you're getting into someone creating more than 3 lots, they're, for the most part, becoming a developer. They are probably doing some sort of a big subdivision, and the variance that they're requesting is for their financial gain so that they can get an additional lot or something such as that. So that's the price break. When you're dealing with one lot that's being split in half, there's not as much time that goes into it. There's not as much negotiation and time spent on my end. So you get into the developers, they have a tendency to take quite a bit more of your time.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Action item number 11, the request for permission to do work within the county right-of-way along County Road 1040. We're looking to install a single-phase overhead distribution line approximately 5 foot inside the north right-of-way of County Road 1040 in Precinct 1 under normal stipulations.
Make a motion, we approve this request?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Action number 12, the request to construct electrical power distribution facilities, which will be in the right-of-way of County Road 2434 in Precinct 2 under normal stipulations.
Make a motion, we approve this construction under normal stipulations.
Second?
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Action item 13, the request for permission to do work within the county right-of-way along County Road 3106, 1,000 foot south of the intersection of County Road 3106 and County Road 3108, 1717 County Road 3106, that's 1,700 feet. In parentheses, is that the total? Who's,
It's like the address.
that's the address, okay. We're looking to install single-phase overhead distribution line, 212 feet in the county right-of-way, and install a pole and guy approximately 1 foot inside the eastern right-of-way of County Road 3106 in Precinct 3 under normal stipulations.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Action item 14, the request for permission from Hunt County to cross County Road 3123, County Road 3124, County Road 3128, County Road 3404, County Road 3408, County Road 3410, County Road 3413, County Road 3430, as a part of installing second raw water line from Lake Tawakoni to a water treatment plant northeast of the city of Greenville. Bartlett and West is the design firm, and MH Civil is under contract to construct the line. The crossing will include 36-inch PVC carrier pipe and 48-inch steel casing jacked and bored under the roadway. MH Civil will contact County Commissioner's Office 48 hours before starting construction. Construction utility company shall place flexible utility markers on each crossing location by the water pipe. Work will be approximately 7 days each location, precinct 3 under normal stipulations.
Your Honor, I make a motion under normal stipulations.
Second.
Got a motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Action number 15, request for permission for North Hunt SUD to install a new 4-inch water line in the right-of-way along County Road 4410, starting at the intersection of County Road 4410 and County Road 4412. The line should extend on the south side of County Road 4410 for approximately 600 feet to the property of a new customer. North Hunt Special Utility District has reached out to the property owners in the area of the proposed new line for easements. However, both property owners have denied easements for their properties. This new line would be installed along the back slope of the ditch and would not cost or affect any roadways in precinct 4 under normal stipulations.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion second, all in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Action number 16, replat of lots 13 and 14 of Whispering Oaks, Phase 1 in Precinct 2.
Okay, this is a replat that actually came before y'all a couple of court meetings ago. We had a public hearing on it, public notice, no replies, no responses to any of the public notices that went out. The property owner, there was a miscommunication or lack of communication as far as the date that it was going to be on, and he wanted to speak with the Commissioners Court and have a chance to get up here and talk to y'all about why they're requesting this replat. So that's why we ran it back through. We checked with Daniel, and he said that it was okay since we had already had the public hearing and public notice and all, and there was no response. So,
Daniel, we have to open it up as a public hearing here, or can they just?
It's a replat.
It's a replat, but we've already had the public hearing on it. We don't have to. If the applicants are here and want to come forward and speak.
I'm the
Name and address, please.
Tiffany Kirkland, address 8952 Private Road, 2402 Quinlan, 75474.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So this property was originally my grandmother. She passed away, left it to me and my mom. I am trying to partial off 1.6 of my land to my neighbor. The land is just becoming too much for me, so I'm trying to distribute some of the land off. Currently, I believe it was 7.4 acres, and it's just 1.6 that I am dividing off, which is the very front of the property. And it will just go from my land to the neighbor's land.
Is this a replat we passed, and this is a replat of that replat?
No, we failed it. We did not approve it.
Okay.
We denied the plat, whatever meeting it was.
Okay, but
We denied it because it doesn't have enough frontage on the lot, or in the one lot.
memory serves me right.
Is this a changed plat or is it the same one?
It's the same one, just we're going over it again. Giving them they didn't, had a confusion on the date, so we're giving them an opportunity to speak. What were you gonna say?
This property, right now, the way it currently is, it's 209 feet wide, and it's supposed to be 275 feet wide. We can't do anything about that because it's an old plat. But now we're wanting to split this 209, if we grant that, that's gonna go down to one lot being 116 foot wide, and then another one roughly 93 feet wide. That's too much of a deficit, in my opinion, on that. But that's what we're looking at. Is that correct?
That's, sure.
I'm a family friend of theirs.
Name.
Part of the reason why we're doing.
Name, please.
Oh, my name's Oscar Gonzalez. I'm a family friend of one of the property owners. Part of the reason why they're doing the replat, there's actually 2 properties with 3 separate homes on this property. One of the property owners has lived in that property for approximately 6 years now. So the problem they're going to have when these properties are sold down the future, there's going to be 3 properties, 3 homes on 3 properties. One of the homeowners is possibly looking to, like she mentioned, find something a lot smaller for her to maintain. So that would mean that one of the homes on the property would have to be vacated, which is family, friends of the other property owner. So all we're trying to do is just move that property on over a little bit so we can keep that home part of the other property owner, if that makes any sense.
And there's also another address listed to that 1.6 that's been there. So that property at 1.6 has been listed as A954 since 1980 something. So there's 2 different addresses on my property of 8952. So it's the 8954 property that is the 1.6 where the other additional home is.
Does this create any new addresses or driveways?
No. There's 3 existing driveways already to each of these homes. It is on a private dirt road with a dead end. Everything surrounding it is a flood zone, so there wouldn't be any changes to these properties. All we're moving is that property line over, so those 2 homes can remain in the event that Tiffany decides to sell her property.
The problem is you got a lot now with 2 houses on it, and it'll make it non-conforming, and you'll turn around and sell it to the neighbors, then they'll have 2 houses on their property, and if they turn around and come in and want to cut off one of the houses from it, we still got a frontage problem with them. It's just, we'll be compounding the problem. The configuration of the lots just doesn't seem to work and be conducive for, what the future would be. That's part of my concern is, we're gonna put one non-conforming subdivision in, and we're gonna turn around and be asked to do it again. Once we've done it once, then how we turn it down the next, so we're kind of putting ourselves in a box of trying to be more responsible for our rules and trying to make an orderly, county to live in. And we have to live with it the way it is, but we don't have to make it worse. And that, my opinion is we're making it worse.
I understand where you come from. The whole deal is if we divide these properties, eventually, let's just talk about not the near future, but far down the road, these would be sold as 2 different properties. The issue we're having, at one point, they made an agreement to sell off that 1.5 or 1.6 acres. They went through all these hoops to try to make sure that property could be separated in 3 different properties. Of course, now that we know where we're at, we're not able to do that anymore. So she ended up selling the other property owner another half an acre to make sure that, we fell under the county's septic system and all the rules about that. So that one property that we're trying to acquire, right, would be always 2 different properties. The previous owner, which are standing right behind us, and they don't speak very good English, if they ever sold that property, they would sell it as one property. This is not a loop going over and over and over. They would sell it as a one property, and you guys will probably never have to figure about this at all.
Well, they might not, but they may sell both of them to somebody and they come in and try to do it. So,
That makes sense.
we can't control it.
said 1.6 was already sold. Has it come before this court in reference?
No,
to-
that's where we're in the, that's what we're in the process of trying to replat it to sell that 1.6.
That's correct.
Well, you said you already sold 1.6.
No, so what they did was they agreed to sell them a 1 acre, and now in order to fall, because I guess in the Hunt County, you need 1.6 of an acre to have a septic system. From what I understand, they are able to sell them another half, well, bring it up to an agreement of an acre and a half.
You're about 10 years behind.
How long have the current houses been there?
Oh.
Have they all been there a long time, or are they? is this-
So, a 1.6 acre home, that home has been there since 84. So it's a home I grew up in. It was just an old trailer house. The home on 8952 that I currently live in, that house was built in 2013. And then the house for the neighbors, I don't know how many years that house has been there. 6 years for the house next door. So we're combining the one that's been there since 1980s with the property that's been there for 6 years ago.
But then that's gonna put 3 houses on their lot. If I'm reading this correct, they got a mobile home. Currently, it looks like they got a 1-story wood frame house and then a manufactured home on it.
That's currently on, that's the 8952 and 8954.
I'm saying, so, but we'd create a new lot that now has 3 houses on it, if we approved it.
It would be 2 lots. So we would be moving the manufactured home with the home.
I understand, but now that, as proposed, the lot 14R would have 3 homes on it then.
So,
Hey, Brian, while they look at that, would this division have been legal in 2013?
It had been required.
What the frontage requirements were in 13, but I don't think they were quite that small. I don't think they were 116 feet or something over 5 acres.
At that point in time, you had to have an acre and a half in reference to getting it.
In 13?
Yes, sir. I can remember. That's right. It was an acre and a half. They tried to go down to an acre. They didn't do it. In actuality, I was on when this all happened. And for your information, 1 acre if you concrete. But that has to do with something else. In actuality, I don't believe it met the specifications back during that time, but I have a book that we can look it up. That's what happened.
he's looking at this little, or mobile, one property.
Mark, that was a good question.
That's an empty, mobile home. I see what you're saying, though.
I guess my concern is that if it was 2 or even 3 houses and they've been there for 30-something years and this was just, and they were grandfathered in and legal, then I don't think that we would be making the situation any worse by granting a variance. The problem is that since new houses have been moved in fairly frequently, we have to consider that in the future, if we grant this variance, are other people going to imitate this sequence of events to move properties onto their house, get addresses, which doesn't require replatting, get addresses, put in driveways, and then request a variance because it's not making the situation worse. So,
Brian, also, I'd like to ask this is a private road going into all this, did y'all have a discussion in reference to putting it up to county specs or anything like that in reference to the road, or what happened on that?
So this is in Whispering Oaks. This is at the very end of the road. There are no residences past the end of this, requiring them to upgrade that little bitty bit at their cost that the HOA would have to turn around and maintain, and they're not adding any residences on the house. They're not increasing traffic.
Do they have an acting HOA?
I wouldn't think so.
I don't know of any of them that have.
What,
I don't ever remember Whispering Oaks having a functioning HOA.
So the proposal is to divide it into two, and the house that's been there since the 80s would be in one tract with the mobile home that's been there most recently there, or is that going to be on a separate tract?
No, it's gonna be, I would say, same thing, same track.
Same tract. So is there, and there's a residence on the other one as well. How long has that been there?
The one, what are you talking about, the one we're sending over?
Mm-hmm.
The one that you
The 1.86? That home has been there since 1980s. That's the house I grew up in.
So you've got a house that she is keeping, a house that's being sold to the neighbors, and then a house that the neighbors presently own. The house that she's keeping was moved in 13. The house that she's selling to the neighbors was moved in the early 80s. And the house that the neighbors are living in was sometime around 2018, 17, 18.
How many
What
septic?
about, there's a mobile home and a house there?
Did you say that the mobile home?
The mobile home is empty. It's supposed to be tore down from what, it's that one right there on the side.
How many septic systems?
Each home has its own septic system, independent septic system.
Could I ask you a question? You,
Yes, sir.
what is your occupation?
Me? I work for Mr. Barron. I do pools for him. We design and build pools in all Rockwall County.
You're not a developer?
No. No. We're definitely all homeowners. No.
Judge, where I'm at is if these are old homes that have been there for forever, and we're just making it so they can be sold independently of each other, but we're not creating any new situations, that'd be one thing, but my concern is just that because we have homes in 2013, 2018 being moved on the property, that if we open up that can of worms, we're gonna have a lot of other requests.
And if we grant a variance on this one and approve the plat, then the next one comes in too, then this doesn't have a unique set of circumstances that we could put our hat on and say, well, if this thing happens like this again, we're okay with it. And like I said, with the two houses already on there, I'm concerned that they'll turn around and come in and ask for another replat at some point in time, either the current owners or future owner, and we just keep making the problem worse.
The important question, I'm not sure I have a clear answer to, and this is directed at Brian, is whether or not this division would have been legal in 2018.
In 18, no. In 18, the frontage requirements were very similar to what we have now.
That's right.
Very similar. The only difference was, it was 250 feet for tracts over 5 acres instead of 275. I believe that was the only difference.
Yeah, they only have a total of 450 foot of frontage, 455 feet of frontage on both lots currently. You divide that by 3 and it gets pretty small pretty fast. They don't really even have, on the current lot 14, doesn't have enough current frontage as it is, does it?
It does.
It does, okay.
If we were to grant this, would we be able to record on the face of the plat that no further divisions are allowed?
I don't know.
That one,
Being on a private road. with
we can't make deed
built around it.
restrictions.
I don't.
Flood.
I don't think so. We don't know what the future divisions are gonna say. Future subdivision regulations are gonna say. And so, I don't think that there's a general authority for a county to negotiate something like that. At least not that I've seen.
It'd basically be a restriction on the property not to be subdivided again, and we don't have any enforcement mechanisms on restrictions, do we? Or,
No,
yeah.
not as they stand right now. They could put in something that would allow, like a CCR that would be applicable to the other neighbors and allow them to enforce, but that wouldn't be a county enforcement issue.
And then mean, they could change it too, so.
That's correct.
The old spider has one heck of a web, don't it?
You know, I understand the problem, and I have some compassion for it, but it just makes it tough for us to try to do something that's gonna turn around and make us allow this every time we do one. Every time somebody comes in and asks for it, then we won't have an excuse not to turn them down. We'll have to start allowing it, and then we might as well just go change our rules. And so the only variances we've ever granted since I've been on the court is if it's a unique situation that the likelihood of that ever being duplicated is nearly zero. In this one, I can see it happening to us all the time.
Again, I got a photo of it if it helps you any.
I mean,
show you.
it's not, a photo doesn't, I mean, I don't care, what it looks like doesn't matter to me. That's not the problem. It's just the.
Yeah, it's a county road, there's no traffic, there's no development out there, there's no future of development out there that I can see. Mr. Byrne himself takes care of the county road himself, and she's a witness.
It's a private road, it's not a county road.
Private road,
The private road,
yes.
you know,
May I ask this, is it a gravel road?
it's a gravel road, yeah. Every time we get rain, just like we did this last week, he's a gentleman that goes out there and fixes this road, you know, for everyone living off that private road, you know.
What's the chances he can buy the home and just scoot it over on his lot?
He would have to buy Tiffany's home.
So he could buy the manufactured home and move it over on his lot.
Moving this one over?
Moving the home she says she grew up in, move it over to the other lot, and then the gentleman could have that wants to have the house, will have it on his lot, and we can leave the lot dimensions alone.
I got you.
Brian, was this actually, this whole subdivision, was it actually platted in the past?
Yes.
I mean, it's not an illegal plat.
No. Commissioners? Somebody got a motion?
I'll make a motion we deny it. I just think we're putting ourselves in a box if we approve it. I mean, I have compassion on it, on the situation, but it's, man, we've denied them in the past, and if we approve this one, it's hard to disapprove the next one. And they've established the subdivision rules for a reason, and I feel like we need to
I mean, you guys mentioned a restriction. I mean, is there anything that you could put a restriction? I understand if it was like a community that, you know, people are just trying to replat properties to, you know, like he thought I was a developer, which I'm not. Like if it was closer to the city, or if it was a property that they wanted to replat to build more homes. We're not trying to build more homes. We're just trying to keep the families that live in that home right now. You know, his brother lives in that home right now, and he's trying to make sure that we do it the right way and have that property replatted so he stays in his home and Mr. Barron stays in his home. That's the only real reason why we're doing this. It's not to acquire more land, because if that was the case, she would have sold that property straight down the middle, but we cut up a little bit so she can keep most of her property. It's not, I mean, I know what you're saying. You don't want to open a can of worms and have other developers come in here and force your arm to do something you don't want to do. It makes total sense. Again, the reason why we do it is just to keep the homeowners living in the same home and nothing changes.
The problem is like you had your ideas and the things that you're gonna do with it is great, but life happens and things happen and you move off, the next person, what are they gonna do with it? I mean, those are just ongoing questions that we have to keep dealing with.
If we approve this, then when that developer comes along and wants to do the same thing, we have to say yes to them too.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye. All opposed? The variance is denied and the plat's denied. Thank y'all. All right, action item 17, Briar Branch Phase 1, acknowledgement of the completion of construction of infrastructure in Precinct 1. Brian?
Okay, this is up on County Road 1076. They have completed the road, they've completed the infrastructure construction. They're wanting to get the court's acknowledgement so that they can get the 2-year maintenance bond and get it to us next court.
Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved?
Second.
Got a motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Action item 18, preliminary plat for Greenstead Estates, an addition in Precinct 1.
There's a lot of names you need to read there.
No, sir.
Oh, were you not going to read the ownership?
No, sir. You can't, you get to read them.
I'm not even going to jump into that one. So after discussing this with Commissioner Hutchins, this is up north of Cloudline. If you're familiar with the Celeste area, Cloudline is a pretty popular area for growth and for traffic. County Road 1048 that this preliminary plat fronts on the thoroughfare plan, it is a major arterial, which if you look at the subdivision regs, major arterial is a 100-foot right-of-way with a 64-foot pavement section.
Designated as a major arterial on our thoroughfare plan, just to be clear.
Yes, it is a major arterial on our thoroughfare plan.
County Road 1048 is?
1048.
One that's going to CST.
Yes. So I think I would make a recommendation. Let's table this. Let me get with the engineer and let's discuss this a little bit further. Obviously, I mean, a 1,500-foot long section of 64-foot or half of a 64-foot wide paved surface would be a little bit difficult to work drainage and to work everything else out. So, but we've got some questions with it being a major road. This is one that Mark was referring to earlier, saying that this road it just gets hammered with traffic. It's in pretty bad shape. This is in a low area on the road. So we need to look a little bit more at that right of way and at least potentially getting the right of way dedication if we don't take it all the way up to half of the 64-foot wide road.
Is this north of Celeste, northeast of Celeste?
Yes, yes. Yeah, 1048 is the road that runs due north out of Celeste. And it goes up to kind of that southern Leonard area that's kind of getting some growth as well.
What about the shot clock?
We can go to the next meeting. We've got enough time on it.
Is that area a flood area up in there?
There is floodplain on this development. The engineers aware of it, they're looking at it, and they're aware of what they have to do.
I believe what we need to do is we need that engineer study before this is.
Well, that'll come on the plans. They're just wanting to get the court's okay for the preliminary plat, the general layout, but I think the additional right-of-way dedication that's probably going to be needed up front is going to affect the preliminary plat more so than the plans.
Yeah.
So
I
I'd say
agree,
let's-
Brian.
Putting this in their old business or what?
I think if we could move to old business, that'll give me the next couple of weeks to figure out what's going on with it and discuss with the engineer and possibly get some additional right-of-way dedicated.
I'm in agreement, Brian. We need to look at this a little bit more. A thoroughfare plan does designate this as a major arterial. We can't ignore that, but we also want to be reasonable in what we're requesting of the developer.
And what he's asking us to do is to approve the preliminary now so they can get into the engineering side of it. They don't want to go spend thousands of dollars on engineering and us turn it down. So they're asking us to move it forward. But I agree. If we're not on the shot clock, let's take the time and let's make sure everybody's aware of the right-of-way there. We need to protect that right-of-way.
Absolutely.
All right. So we'll table this till the next meeting.
Hang on to your plats, guys. Don't just leave them in your stuff. Pull them out and keep them for next week.
Or 2 weeks from now, next meeting.
Couple weeks.
Action item number 19, the final plat of Palma Addition in Precinct 1.
Pretty simple plat. He has text dot approval for driveway for Lot 1. The road, 1032 out front's already in pretty good shape. I mean, it's one that I believe Mark probably upgraded last year or
No, it
did
was
some
already-
work on.
It was already done.
No? Okay.
Yeah, TxDOT built a bridge.
That's what it was.
Recently, so there was work.
Okay. Yeah, I knew there was some pretty recent work down there. This is just north of town, right off of 69, just past Money Lake Road.
All right, entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Action number 20, the final plat for Pitney Ridge Estates in Precinct 4.
Escrow has already been paid for the road upgrade, and it meets all the county specs.
Any questions? Entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Action number 21, the final plat for Grove Hill Meadows Phase 2 in Precinct 4.
All right, and this one, the only thing that we are waiting on is for the buyer to clear the right-of-way, or the developer, whoever's gonna do it, to clear the trees out of the right-of-way there. So, that's it. Everything else on the plat looks good. Everything meets, expectations and requirements.
All right, any questions? Entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
All right, anything else before the court? Entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session under items 1 through 4.
Second.
Got a motion second, all in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned, or we go to executive session at 11:46.
Judge, we standing here or going next door?
Probably next door. we up?
Shows we are.
Okay. It is 12:40, and we're back in regular session. Action item number 4, presentation by Women in Need and requesting county's American Rescue Plan funding to help provide crucial support to families impacted by domestic violence in Hunt County. We can take action on that today as determined by our attorney, and I'd entertain a motion for approval of the requested $75,000 out of ARPA funding, which will be coming out of the restricted $9.3 million portion of the ARPA funds.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye. All opposed?
No. And Judge, for discussion, I'm not opposed to giving them the money. I just think we need to have an idea, a plan for all the amount before we move forward.
There's nothing, I need to, we need a motion to approve the, what was the agreement called?
The agreement for temporary resident use on private road 2425 for the culvert replacement construction project on County Road 2432.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the agreement.
Make a motion to approve this agreement.
Your Honor, discussion.
Sure.
The agreement is, we have it as such, basically, that after the fact, that no maintenance or anything will be done. Is that correct in the agreement, please?
Yes, and if what I'm asking for today is a motion and a second and then an approval on allowing me to send the letter that I've sent to you as an offer to the representative for the private road 2425. If you did that and then they accepted, then that would allow Commissioner Monroe to allow residents along that county road to use that private road as ingress, egress during the construction period to replace 3 culverts, which is set for next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And if it's approved with its current language, then it would be a one-time fix to the road. Basically, Commissioner Monroe has been out there to look at the road and believes that with some additional rock and grading, that road, without going through an extensive rebuilding project, would be greatly increased in its passability and value. The neighbors, Commissioner Monroe talked with them. I talked with one of them who's an attorney that lives out there. Everybody that we talked to so far believes that this will work. It's just not 100% clear yet because there just hasn't been enough time to go through that. So if you approve this, this would go to them as an offer. If they approve it without any changes, then it would come back as an acceptance, and it wouldn't have to come back through court again. It would just be a usable agreement by Commissioner Monroe starting next week.
Thank you, sir.
And Commissioner Monroe, so for the public's information, there is no other way to get in and out of here while you're replacing these culverts. So if there was a medical emergency or something, they would need to use this private road to get to ambulance.
Exactly. On this road we're replacing these culverts, it's about 50-foot wide creek, 3 culverts in it. There's one way in, one way out, with the exception of this private road 2425. It's a gated road, but as Daniel has stated, they're willing to give us permission to use that road.
All right. We got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Does anybody else wish to, opening it up for public testimony? Is there any other comments?
Yes, there's one comment online from Amy Moore. It is titled, "Concerns Regarding Needing Addressing at Commissioners Court Meeting. To whom it may concern, We live in a small subdivision located off CR 2506 and I-30 in Caddo Mills called Deer Crossing. We are considered outside the city limits. There are only 3 streets: Buck Court, Fawn Crossing, and Doe Crossing. For several years, at least since 2017, my neighbors and I have continually tried to address concerns with the county commissioners and have received no help. The issues are as follows. There are huge potholes in CR 2506, especially at 2506 and the I-30 service road, that are impossible not to drive through because they're so big. Just this week, someone hit one too fast and knocked his rearview mirror loose, then hit another pothole in 2506 in Buck Court, and it swung and broke his windshield. Yes, we have construction coming through here, but the construction has been going on for years, and if you feel the potholes are the responsibility of the developer, Larry Shireen with Texas Diamond Custom Homes, then make him fix them. He lives on Buck Court. He knows. He has concrete trucks in here daily. Do something, not nothing. Number 2, 2506 has become a cut-through street and is not paved or even rocked past Buck Court. Every single time it rains, trucks get stuck in the mud. Considering the development out here, something needs to be done. Number 3, Buck Court holds massive amounts of water at any time it rains. There is no drainage, and something needs to be done. Even days or weeks after a rain, it is flooded. Pictures are attached. Drive out today and look at it. It's horrible. Fawn Crossing, number 4, Fawn Crossing and Doe Crossing do not have street signs and haven't for years, which is a major concern for emergency vehicles. We have so many issues with deliveries on Doe Crossing because of the lack of street signs. Almost daily, someone will post on our Deer Crossing Facebook page that they're missing a package. We have exhausted efforts to get the developer to do anything. Texas Diamond Custom Homes, Larry Shireen and Aaron Northcutt, they build these streets and homes and then don't do anything else. The majority of the time, they build them wrong because y'all don't require any inspections. They do what they want, then stick us with the fallout for their screw-ups. We have no protection or help from anyone, including Hunt County, but we pay Hunt County taxes, so someone needs to come through for us. Everyone that has brought it up to them, the developers, has been told it's the county's problem. Please, can we get some help? From Amy Moore.
Okay. Anybody else wish to speak? Not, I'll close the public testimony. Commissioners, anything else? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Got a motion, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned at 12:47.
Hey, David, are we all completely, hey, David.
Hey, hang on a second.